Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Finance meeting of March 9th, 2016. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item of business are public delegations. Are there any folks from the public that wish to address the board this evening? Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Gary Lukowski, 12 Methodist Street, Niantic, and I'm representing the Smith-Harris Commission here tonight. As chairman, I just want the Board of Finance to be aware that the budget request that they have in there that they will be getting tonight from the Board of Selectmen is not the request that the commission put together, and they would like to request the opportunity to discuss the budget with you when the proper time comes up. There was other information that was sent when we sent our budget out to the First Selectman, and a letter on November 22nd stating the reasons why we had the increases in our budget, or that the one increase that we asked for, and we'd like to be able to talk to the Board of Finance why we increased it and get that info. If they don't have that information, we would like to get that information to the Board of Finance.
Okay.
Okay, so I didn't see it on the schedule out there, but I understand that we are going to be scheduled to come and speak with you. My question is, who should I get the information to on the board? I have the originals. I can have copies made and sent. Should I send them through the chairman?
Anna, what's your recommendation? Mark or you?
Well, actually, the correspondence that the Smith-Harris Commission submitted with their original budget is in your books.
It is in the book. Okay, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anna, I didn't bring the other two meeting agendas for the budget presentations. Are they on the agenda for next Monday? Right, I left them at home. I didn't bring them tonight.
They are scheduled tentatively for Monday, March 28th.
Okay.
That has not been approved yet, so I have not yet sent them an agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there other folks that wish to address the board this evening? Sir. Please. Thank you, Karen.
Evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mike Schultz, Lover's Lane, East Lyme. First off, thank you guys for the job you're doing, serving the community, all the time you take. I know it's many, many hours. I appreciate it. I may be a little bit premature in the fact that some of the other budgets are going to be, I guess, presented, next week, I hear? The 20th, something like that? Board of Ed and the town budget being brought forth. But I've got to take opportunity as it comes to me because I'm pretty busy myself on the road a lot. So I'd like to talk about a couple things tonight. And most all of them, I'm sure you're well aware of, is that the state is going to be going into about a $2 billion deficit over the next couple of years. And I think the towns need to come forward to do as much as we can to help out the state rather than the other way around. The state, it's like what can the state can do for you? No, it's what we can do the other way around. And the same thing, I think, applies to the citizenry in this town, to the schools, and to the town itself. Because I think there's too many people in this town that are just taking advantage of situations that are developed, free lunches, free breakfast, all these things where there's a lot of people we have a pretty high income level in this town. And people can afford to feed their kids. People can afford to clothe their kids. And if they can't, That's where we need to help out. But we're not responsible for these kids. It's not my job. I mean, they chose to have children. It's their job to take care of them. And it's for us to help where we can. But we have limited funds to be able to do that. Last year, by July of 2015, I had 165 mailings for contributions. I logged them in. I just wanted to find out. I had 165 by July. And if I was capable of giving each one of those $25, I didn't bring my calculator, but that'd be a lot of money. And now we have the Wounded Warrior, this fiasco going on. I'm not going to give anybody any money anymore if that's where it's going. 80% of it down the drain. The Wounded Warriors, or at least 50% of it, going to the golf courses. And I mean, I suspect you've all read about that and heard about it. It's horrible. So now people are going to have a difficult time getting anyone to help, at least for me. Now, we got a proposed budget from the Board of Ed. I don't have the town ones yet. I lost to see it in the paper tonight. But there's this $45.7 million. 3.93% increase was the last piece of information that I had, and I'm not sure what the town's budget is, as I said. But I do feel that the 3.93 is way too high. Obviously, I mean, it was up around 5 or 6, but even 3.93 is just too high. And these are some of my concerns. I'm not just saying that it's too high because I don't want to support it. I can afford to support it. But we went from 12 administrators at the high school to 16.5 FTEs this year. It was either 11 or 12 to 16.5. And the average salary for 2016-17 will be $147,000. And that's with a 3.25% increase. That's like 42. That's on average. That's $4,230 per administrator, and that doesn't count the superintendent, the assistant superintendent. You can't tell me that you can't afford to live on $140,000, and to be given now with the cost of living, if even I think it was this year, what, 0.75, something like that, pretty low. And they're still going to get 3.25%, and they get 3% this year, 3%, 3.25% next year, and 3% after that. We're talking people with six-figure incomes. Come on, it's absurd. So there ought to be something that we can do. And the problem is we're signing contracts out 2-3 years. You shouldn't do that. You don't know what the cost of living is going to be. You have no idea. And so now when they come before the boards, the Board of Finance and the selectmen, the first thing out of the manager's mouth is we have contractual obligations. It's because they signed them 2-3 years ago. And so it's fixed. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's being done, as far as I'm concerned, without regard for the cost of living, and it's far too early, and the contracts are too long. Almost 80% of the school budget is driven by salaries and benefits this year. 80%. 79 point something. Yet I doubt that even 50% of the school staff, and I don't know about the town staff, I doubt that even 50% of them live in this town. If we're going to provide incentives to these to people, for example, like opting out of health insurance, you provide an incentive to opt out of health insurance, and then you pay them for not taking it. Are you aware that we've got 2 administrators that are getting over $9,000 apiece? for opting out of their health insurance. And why? Because they're probably covered under their husband. And the Board of Education is saying that they're saving over $18,000 because of their opting out. It's not right. I know the town employees get some amount of monies for opting out, and I guess it's spread, but it doesn't make sense. It's not the right thing. You have people that don't have insurance, that need insurance, and now you got people that were offering insurance, and now we're going to pay them $9,385 each. It's crazy. The town and the school district is self-insured, and we're self-insured up to $125,000 is my understanding. And then after that, supposedly insurance kicks in. However, we're also paying a management fee. And I think that management fee costs the town somewhere around $150,000 a year. And that $125,000 per enrollee, and that also includes the dependent. The self-insurance, I mean, it can have a huge consequence on the cost to this town. And you know it did this year. I think you've got some feedback on that. We don't require people that hit age 65, we allow them to stay on town insurance. You can't, I guess you can't force them to go on Medicare, but they can stay on a town insurance as well as their dependent after age 65. And I don't know how many people fall into that category in the town that are 65 and older, but I did find out from the school system that they have 42. They have 42 people. Take 42 and multiply it times $125,000. Would it all happen? Probably not. But is it possible? Yeah. That comes to $5,250,000. Just from those 42 up there that we could be on the hook for through self-insurance. So, to me, there are two things should be done. First, either terminate employment at age 65 or disallow employee and spouse to remain on town insurance at age 65. Go on Medicare. That's federal. Spread it across the United States. Why spread it across the town? And why should your insurance or health care, I guess we should put it that way, it's no more important. It's no more important. My health care is as important to me as yours is to you and your family. So we got a lot of people that are kind of getting free rides, not paying their fair share. State employees, many of them don't pay anything at all. Got a friend retired down in Florida, pays zero, hasn't paid anything for 15 years. So, and the other thing we can do too for savings is if you have an employee who has a spouse that works for another company and can get their insurance from the other company, that's where they should get their insurance. We shouldn't have to pay for the town employee, the school employee, and their spouse if they can be insured by somebody else. Like Pfizer's, for example. They get insurance through Pfizer's. Why should they be on our tab, especially when they're self-insured for $125,000? It's not right. So I'm just bringing this up because it's food for thought. We need some areas that we can save. And these are areas where we can save. And I guess lastly, I got tons of other issues, but I'm not going to bore you with them tonight. But lastly, I don't know how to get this through, but we need to get rid of this $9,385 payment to the administrators in the school. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's embarrassing. I can't imagine any other town or city in the United States having a clause in a contract like that. Future ones don't get it because we got it removed 2 years ago. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Other folks from the public that wish to address the board? Other folks wishing to address the board? Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, moving on. Excuse me. We'll move on to the approval of our regular meeting minutes of February 10th. Are there any comments? Corrections? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the first selectman report, who is not here this evening. Do we have a Board of Ed rep tonight? I don't see anyone.
There won't be one this evening.
No.
They will send someone next month. I guess their thought process was they would be coming to you 2 times this month, so that's why they didn't send someone this evening.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the finance director report. Anna?
Okay, so the revenue report and the monthly highlights, I was not able to get them out with your packages last week. It's difficult when there's no time after the first of the month when we have to prepare the report. So they are in your green folders this evening. I'm not sure if anyone's had the opportunity to look at them or if anyone has any questions.
I do. To the chair, can I ask some questions?
Certainly.
On the general fund budget summary,
Mm-hmm.
general government legal, it's $40,000 for this month. Is that still the FOI lawsuits?
Some of it would be, I'm sure, because that's been an ongoing, but there was also, we had an inquiry from the Department of Defense that we needed to respond to, and so that was a timely case as well.
Okay. Are we running over? Do you have any concerns with the legal budget?
I am keeping an eye on it. At this point, I'm hopeful that we would be able to manage it from within the Department 114.
Okay. Another question on it says expenditures for streetlights. I remember we heard something from Public Works of new lights, and is this part of that?
No, it isn't. The street light project, we're currently in the process of having an audit done of all of the lights within the town to determine their value, and that's just part of the process to get to that point. But that was just what we paid for the month.
Any other questions, Beth?
Is revenues, for the last month, any revenue spiking higher than you would expected? Like, I'm thinking of conveyance, building permits?
Not really.
Okay.
Other board members have questions for Anna?
One question.
Certainly.
Anna, I'm looking at the pilot state-owned property.
Yes.
I see we're $107,000 short. Is that the entirety of the funds that we are going to receive this year? In other words, are we going to be short at the end of the year 107?
We will. That's, if you remember, we discussed that at previous meetings. That was part of the state reductions that we
Right.
took mid-year.
I thought so. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
That was the largest hit that we took. It
Yeah.
was in the pilot state-owned.
So how will you go about, or in this budget book, how did you go about budgeting for the next fiscal year for the pilot state-owned property? Did you go in at 874, what we received
That
this year?
initially, when we started working on the budget, I did start with that reduction. And then the state took away about an additional 4,000, I believe.
So we'll be somewhere around 870
Exactly.
next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The little spike that we received when, as a result of the improvements that were done to the National Guard facility, that was like very short-lived, one fiscal year. And then they chipped away at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Gentlemen, any questions for Anna?
Not for me, thank you.
No, thank you.
Just one question on my part, Anna, other than my regular question, which I'll ask at the end. But on the expenditure analysis, it's not a lot of money, but I'm looking on page 1 under contracted land record management. We're almost out of that budget. What is that?
What department?
107,
Okay.
right on page 5. Sorry, I think I said the first page.
That's why I was confused.
It was my mistake. Apologize.
Okay. If you look, they have a $13,735 encumbrance.
Right.
So what they do at the beginning of the year is they encumber the funds that they anticipate paying out for that service.
Okay.
So, and then it shows 90, that it's 92%
Right.
expended, but a portion of that is in encumbrance.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Can I just ask one?
Certainly.
When we talked about the dip of 107,000,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't we get, and I don't know if we had counted in the revenue, it was like a experimental pilot opt-in grant that they gave to municipalities for like local. It was on the sheet last month from CCM.
So that's it's about 22,000.
No, I thought it was a little higher than that. It was like a one shot only. It was in like but I don't think we had banked that, did we? Isn't it something that came in after the budget?
The one thing that I'm thinking of is the 22,000 that they give it to us, and we can expend it on capital, including roads. So that's part of our town aid road.
No, it wasn't a part of the town
Appropriation.
aid road. I'll find it. It was in the last packet last month. A report from CCM. It was one of the revenue streams, and it was like a opt-in. There was a carrot attached, which I doubt anyone was going to take the carrot, but that was like incentive money.
Yeah, I'd have to.
I'll look.
Any areas of concern you want to bring our attention to, Anna?
Well, the items that I continuously watch the legal accounts, police overtime, both of the fire companies. I do take a look at their part-time and their overtime expenses for the month, and one at this point in time is looking at being $2,000 overexpended at year end, and the other department is about $3,700. However, it depends on how things go for the remaining months of the fiscal year, because those amounts, if they come in, if their monthly expenditures come in lower than they did last year, then they might end up breaking even, or perhaps even having some remaining balances. But I do continuously keep an eye on those.
Great. Okay. And department heads are watching that with you, the folks responsible for that.
The fire chiefs.
Fire chief. Yeah, thanks.
And then we will, at a future meeting, be coming and asking for some additional funds for the part-time clerical account in the planning area. The recording secretary that the Planning Commission uses was previously a part-time employee and is now in a full-time position, and so we have to compensate that employee at time and a half for those meetings, and so it made them go through their budget quicker. However, for the remainder of the fiscal year and going forward, they have found someone else that is not an employee of the town that will be taking the minutes. So it'll be, we'll get that back, back where it should be. However, the department will need some additional funds to make it through the rest of this fiscal year. So that will be, at the next meetings.
Do you know
and-
offhand how much that difference is?
We're going to ask, I believe we were discussing asking for $1,000 to get them through the rest of the year.
And if it was time and a half for the other person, it would be in the 1,500
Oh, okay.
ballpark?
Well, the thing is, so at time and a half, at straight time, they would be getting, say, $18. And so it would be $27 at time and a half. So you have, about a $10 difference per hour
So it
difference.
just feels like if it's $1,000 for the one person, it would be 1,500 for the other because they'd be getting time and a half.
Right. And then the other thing is health insurance. We had a reprieve for 3 months, November, December, and January, where our claims were below what the average monthly would be based upon the projected claims for the year. However, February hit us hard. When you think in terms, we have a couple less days in the month of February, but it was our second highest month of claims this fiscal year. The town had several days where the claims the daily claims were over $100,000. And this month, so far, we're at $143,000 in claims already month to date. So it's
In
just
March?
in March, yes. We've had 143,000 in claims so far, month to date. So that is trending on the higher side. Although, you know what, that can change. So I was, like I said, hopeful that because of the lower activity in November, December, and January, that we would start to see a trend downward again. But that was short-lived. So,
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
that takes care of my notes.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Our first item is the transfer of dispatch employees 2015-16 wage increases.
So this was a contract that we were in negotiations with that extended, beyond the expiration of the contract. We did come to a one-year agreement with the group, and these are their retro wages. And we do budget for them in the payroll contingency in Department 120. So when you look at your budget books, all the other departments where we made wage changes, that will be indicated in the amended column. This department, there will be two departments, the 217 and the 218, the Niantic and Flanders departments, where you will not see that.
Anna, I had missed the meeting last month where other transfers were made out of the contingency payroll account.
Yes,
And I think there was a number of them that were approved last month.
that's correct.
So if we approve this this evening for $5,500, I'm thinking there is a balance remaining of $45,000 in that account. Will more requests be coming before the end of the year, or is this the